My humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Swami, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Firstly, I wish to say that I'm privileged and honored to join this virtual Buddha Poornima celebrations program, join with brothers and sisters of Sathya Sai International Organization of United States of America. Sai Ram to you all. I understand that most of you know about Buddha and his teachings. So I want to tell you that I'm no scholar of Buddhism, but I want to share with you, being a Buddhist, I had an experience with Swami connected to Buddha. So I would like to share that experience with you today. But I want to outline briefly Buddha's life story and his teachings for those who may not know much about Buddha. So, Buddha, as Prince Siddhartha, was born to a royal family in a princely state in India, and he enjoyed immense luxuries, and he was provided with everything. He was not wanting for anything. He was very comfortable and very happy, but he had this contemplative nature, and he was thinking when he was growing older, he felt a void in his life, and that his life was meaningless, that there should be something more to life. And so he once came upon a sick person and an elderly person. So he kept thinking that every one of us will be growing old, will be at one point, will get sick, and also no amount of wealth can stop you from dying. So, and then one day he saw this ascetic passing by who was in search of truth, of the meaning of life and liberation. So he had this urge also to renounce everything he had and go in search of liberation from this cycle of life and death. Then one day he discussed this with his father and his others in the household, and they were very disappointed, and they tried to argue with him to not to leave the kingdom, because they said that he would be one day the emperor. So then he posed this question to his father. He said, I will stay under these conditions if you grant me these things, that I will not grow old, that I will not get sick at some point, and also that I could live forever. The king was very disappointed because he knew that he couldn't grant his wishes, and he said, you can ask for anything, but these are wishes that I cannot give you. So one day he renounced all his worldly possessions, and leaving his wife and the young child, he left the royal palace in search of truth, in search of liberation from life. At that time in India, there was a spiritual awakening, and there were many ascetic sages going in search of the truth, the enlightenment. So Siddhartha went to many gurus and followed whatever they had to teach him, and he left them, and after some time he went on his own meditating, and then he started a rigorous sadhana, spiritual sadhana, fasting. He went on for without any solid foods for a long time, and he did this for 6 years. So it was they say that he almost passed away. Then he realized that this tormenting the body to the extremes was not the solution. And in the royal palace, he went to the other extremes of enjoying worldly pleasures. So then he thought the middle path is the answer. So he followed a middle path and meditated on life. And on a Buddha Poornima day, he attained Buddhahood, and he realized that life was a suffering. And he understood why there was suffering. It was because of attachment. And then he thought about it, how to get rid of this attachment. So then he realized that it was the way to get rid of the attachment, and that is the Noble Eightfold Path. It is now given to us in detail. So he and his disciples went about traveling all over India, preaching the Buddha Dharma, and right down the ages, it has come to us by word of mouth for some time, because the priests congregated and they chanted the disciplines, the sutras and everything until it was written down. And we also now chant the same sutras and follow his teachings. Now I shall share my experience with Swami connected to Buddha. So I will go back to my childhood, and I was born to an Orthodox Buddhist family, and we had to follow the rituals and worship of Buddha daily. Actually, it was half an hour in the morning and also half an hour in the evening. My grandmother saw to it that each one of us in the household did this first offering of flowers and incense and so on. And then we had to chant the gathas, stanzas and sutras. And then at the end of it, there was a meditation for a short while. Everyone had to join this. I think, I can't remember seeing my father, but every other person in the house had to join, including the chauffeur and the other helpers in the household. So while seated, when they were meditating, I think it was for me, I was around 7 years, it was a case of silent sitting. And then I want to tell you that my grandmother used to relate so many stories about Buddha and his childhood. So basically, Buddha was compassionate and a very loving person. He was compassionate towards all, not only humans, all living creatures, just like Satya. In his childhood, all of us know that he was loving, and his love went to everyone, one and all. So, so this particular story that my grandmother told, related, and I had this vividly in my mind, where Prince Siddhartha was walking in the royal grounds. A bird, a swan, fell at his feet. His wings were pierced by an arrow. So he quickly picked the bird up and very slowly removed the arrow, and he was going to nurse it, and he took the bird back to the palace. And then suddenly his cousin Devadatta, Prince Devadatta, came running and claimed the bird, saying that he shot the arrow. So Prince Siddhartha was quite firm on this, and there was a bit of a dispute. And they went to King Suddhodana, Prince Siddhartha's father, but he did not want to solve this issue, as he said that it concerned his son, and it was not correct for him to settle this issue. Even at that time, those ethics were followed. So it was taken to the royal court. And then the Prince Devadatta claimed the bird, saying that I shot this arrow and the bird is mine. And these elderly councillors sort of almost agreed with him, saying that he's the one who shot and the bird belongs to him. And then Prince Siddhartha spoke up. He said, if any bird which flies in the sky does not belong to any person on earth. This kept the councillors thinking. And then he posed this question to the councillors. If at all a living being should be given to another, should it be given to the person who safeguards its life or to the person that kills it? Siddhartha won his case, and the bird was given to him. He nursed it and set it free. So most of his stories depicted love and compassion to the birds and bees, and this at my tender age sort of impressed me, and Siddhartha was my hero. So sitting in this shrine room with all the people who were meditating, I was sitting silently. I was gazing at the Buddha statue that was on the pedestal, at his compassionate eyes. And then my grandmother also had told me that we will never be able to see Buddha living in our lifetime. So it made me sad, and suddenly I felt tears coming into my eyes. So then, of course, life went on with its usual ups and downs, and then maybe even the worshipping and the rituals were also slowly getting less and less as I grew up. Maybe Buddha was the last thing on my mind. And in the maybe the late 70s, Swami came into my life, and I joined the Colombo Sri Sathya Sai organization, and I must say we were mostly involved in seva activities, and I enjoyed it. And then during the Buddha Poornima functions, we had to get involved again in the organizations and all that. So slowly these rituals and then Buddha's teachings again, I was reminded of my childhood. Little by little the chanting and everything started. And then for one Buddha Poornima in year 2005, we had to go to Vrindavan, Bangalore. So we were seated with our other sisters from all the Buddhist countries, and we were seated in the front row, and Swami came in. I was seated right underneath his chair, and we were all gazing at him, and he was on and off looking at all of us. And suddenly his eyes fell on me, and I was looking at him. His eyes looked straight at me. And then at that time, I felt something happening. I was suddenly connected to this divine energy, the divine universal energy. Suddenly there was a flashback to my childhood where I remembered the tears coming to my eyes when I was looking at Buddha, and suddenly the tears were rolling down my cheeks. I was still looking at Swami, and he was looking at me with a half a smile, sort of a knowing smile, and then it dawned on me that the, the the oneness in divinity. So I would like to now read an extract from his discourse on that day. I quote, "Divinity is one. It is a sign of ignorance to divide God in the name of religion and limit him to a particular name and form. God is limitless and boundless. He is Sarvantaryami, all-knowing inner reality. And he is Sarvabhutana Ratma, indweller of all beings. How can anyone describe such divinity? God is present in everyone in the form of Atma, self. So develop such self-confidence and spirit of oneness. Truth is one, but the wise refer to it by various names. Pointing to a tumbler, Swami said, "This is water." The Telugu people call it Neeru, and the Tamilians call it Tanni, so on and so forth. Different call it by different names, but water is the same. So the indweller is the same in all beings. People worship God by different names and forms, but God is one. The principle of the Atma which resides in everyone is the true divine power. So this was during the 2005 Buddha Poornima, 23rd May 2005 Buddha Poornima discourse at Vrindavan in Whitefields. So I got my message, and I think all of you would have experienced this sometimes when when you're listening to Swami's discourse or reading a book, you feel that the message is for you. So that day I felt that this message was for me, and I understood the oneness of divinity. So, dear sisters and brothers, this noble eightfold path that Buddha unfolded for us almost 2,500 years ago as the path to liberation from cycle of birth and death goes on like this. The practice of right vision, right speech, right effort, right action, right resolve, right livelihood, and at the end, right mindfulness and right consciousness. So I think soon after the year after, in 2006, the Buddha Poornima celebrations, Swami again spoke about the eight noble path and connected this to Swami's the five human values, which is love, truth, right conduct, non-violence, and peace. So everything that is in this noble eightfold path is contained in the five human values. So, dear sisters and brothers, I think on this Buddha Poornima day, we should resolve to follow and practice Buddha's teachings and our beloved Swami's teachings. Jai Sai Ram.